everyone. Welcome to the Ocean Impact podcast. We are so excited to be back with our first episode of the 2024 season, kicking off with an absolute bang. My name is Amelia Helt and I'll be one of your co-hosts for today. But as always, I am joined by my co-host with the most, Tim Silverwood. How does it feel, Tim, to be back in the skipper's seat for 2024 in what's been a super exciting and, significant year for us at OIO?
Oh, it feels fantastic. Welcome back, everyone. We just love doing this podcast, and this season is going to be filled with some sensational conversations with people that are out there on the ground, helping us understand more about the ocean, understand those challenges, but most importantly, be championing those solutions that will enable us to have a thriving and abundant ocean for generations to come.
Oh, so exciting. And, I guess as people are coming into this first episode and we've got so many just fantastic ones coming up, I'm totally sold that people are going to love this 2024 year of the podcast. What can people expect this season, Tim?
Oh, gee. Well, this first episode is going to be really interesting, I think, for people because we're actually speaking with someone who is right in the center of shaping the way that OIO sees the world and delivers our programs, our core business to support and accelerate startups and entrepreneurs. So that's going to be fascinating. We're going to be diving deep into the ocean, talking about the incredible origins of our human relations with the sea, let alone the incredible complexity around how we manage into the future with James Bradley from Deep Water. We're going to be talking to some of our fantastic strategic partners that we've recently secured in the APAC region. And there's just going to be so many episodes talking to incredible founders who are actually out there forging their path through with their pioneering solutions. So by the end of this season, you're going to have a lot going on in your brain, and hopefully you can turn that into action, and maybe you might be an oceanpreneur of the future who could be working with OIO. Who knows?
Love it. We're definitely going to be stimulating the grey cells, or perhaps in this case for us, they're blue cells. I don't know. This episode is actually, for me, and I'm sure for you, Tim, a really special one because we get to introduce our head of global programs, the fabulous Elisa-Marie Dumas, who joined us last year. I'm just so excited for everyone to get to hear more from EM. If anyone has been to some of our events recently, they've no doubt heard her speak. She is just an expert in programs and in commercialization of incredible solutions. She has a great back catalogue of her career history to pull from. And we're just thrilled. She's such a powerhouse. And so I am so excited for people to get to kind of hear her speak and watch her if you're seeing this on YouTube. Or maybe you're listening to it on your commute to work, because you will definitely learn a lot from Elisa-Marie.
Absolutely. And I really enjoyed it too, because obviously we work together every day and we have been for well over 12 months now, but bundling a conversation into a little 40-minute package is great because you do get to touch on that backstory. And what I found fascinating is that, she's obviously been around this. She talks about her roots in Silicon Valley and how she's been around founders and startups for a really long time. But, recently working very much in the climate tech space and how seamlessly she adapted to the ocean domain and was out there immediately seeing the opportunities that OIO needed to embrace to drive better results and to increase our impact. And so you'll learn a lot about what I suppose has gone into the thinking of the organisation over that past 12 months and how it's setting ourselves up for the future. So if you're interested in OIO and the model that we've created, you're really going to enjoy this episode with EM.
Oh, absolutely. And, of course, this episode is also a celebration of our recent announcement of our third Ocean Impact Accelerator program, Cohort. I can't believe that we are now at 3 cohorts, some incredible solutions and startups and founders. You can, of course, at all times, go to ocean-impact.org, our website, and you can meet the startups there. You can see their solutions and get a little bit of a feel for what they do. But this episode, we will be diving into that. And so Tim, third year of the program, which is so awesome. What was a highlight of this convo with EM about this cohort?
Definitely sort of hearing her perspectives about each of those 5 startups and obviously their remarkable solutions, that goes without saying, but also the thinking that went into shaping a cohort, like an actual cluster of startups that have some crossovers and similarities, because realistically, when you do want to drive results in this programmatic style format with a cohort, those crossovers and synergies become really, really valuable, and those connections to those industry stakeholders, like I've been referring to. So I think people will find that really fascinating. Definitely the thinking that went into how you actually open up that funnel to enable the right startups to apply to programs at the right stage of their journey. And also just the way, I suppose, the program has been put together, the way they actually connect so many other experienced people with those founders in the cohort to make them learn from people who've been there, done that, don't make the same mistakes, realize this, realize that. I just find the whole space so fascinating.
Yeah, and I think, this is probably a fantastic opportunity for us to just kind of throw a public, massive thank you to EM and Sarah, who is also, this is basically our programs team. They do incredible work, and none of this would be possible, and it would not look the way it looks. Certainly with these, as you said, incredible people they've got coming in to chat to the startups. All of this, the way it looks, is because of them. So thank you, ladies, for your incredible work on the program. And, I think it's just such a great opportunity for people listening to get really excited. Like for me, that is one of the things that it just kind of opens your mind to oftentimes solutions that you didn't know about, that you didn't know could make such a big impact. And I think if anyone's listening to this, they probably got some salt in their veins. They definitely are an ocean lover. And so, not only is this going to be some practical advice, you're going to learn a lot about Ocean Impact Organisation and what we're doing, but you are also just going to get really super inspired. And I guess this is a great time to just encourage people, go get some time by the ocean, get into those blue spaces and, embrace it, because that is ultimately the best way to hopefully inspire more incredible solutionists to get into this space.
Couldn't agree more. And I will take this opportunity, Amelia, to thank you as another awesome lady representing the OIO team, because as you've spoken about, when it does come to sharing the cohort, the startups with the world, I know you and I spend a bunch of time dissecting these sometimes complicated solutions to sometimes very cryptic ocean challenges that really are outside the norm. So I really appreciate you and the way that you helped to navigate that process. And then when we did release that cohort to the world, it actually makes it really, really simple to go through that website, read each startup's description and go, oh, I get it. I can see exactly the challenge these guys are focused on, and I can understand their solution. So well done to you too.
Oh, thank you. I'm blushing. Good reminder to everyone to just appreciate your co-workers day. And Tim, I appreciate you, and Nick too. You guys didn't get much of a mention just then, so let's make sure we shout out our fantastic founders of OIO. So thank you very much. And you know what? The podcast is back. I think that is the final message I want to leave everyone with before we jump into this fantastic conversation with EM. Be sure to check out the other episodes, both past and present. Follow and subscribe to the podcast. We're available wherever you listen. And the best thing you can do is to just share it. If you think that someone would love to listen to this, be sure to tell them to find us and listen to these episodes. As usual, we will definitely be taking little highlights of this and putting it on our social medias. We're available on all social media platforms, so you can also get some little quick snippets of inspiration there as well. And Tim, wow, here we are back again. Any final words you want to leave people with?
Just thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful. There's almost 100 episodes of the podcast now out there, and plenty more coming your way. So thank you for being a listener.
Geez, 100 episodes. We are centurions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ocean Impact Podcast with a very special edition of the podcast today, speaking with Elisa-Marie Dumas, otherwise known as EM, who is the head of global programs at Ocean Impact Organisation. And today we're going to be talking a bunch about EM and how ecstatic we are to have her working in our organisation. But specifically, we're going to be talking a bunch about the latest cohort of startups that we've just recently announced as part of the Ocean Impact Accelerator program 2024. Welcome to the show, EM.
Thank you so much, Tim.
You've been working with the organisation for over 12 months now, and you truly have been the transformative hire that our organisation knew we would one day bring on board. And it's just been so phenomenal having you for that 12 months. So thank you for joining us. Why don't we start by you telling our community a little bit about yourself, your career, and what brought you to Ocean Impact Organisation?
Sure. So I am a Silicon Valley transplant, in case you couldn't hear. The thing to know about me is I think that across my whole career, I have been hardwired for people growth. So for the last 15 plus odd years, I have been designing and delivering entrepreneurial development, commercialization, and growth programs that spanned across the US, Australia, and Southeast Asia. Most recently, so for the past 8 years, I had the privilege of working with an organization called Investable, which is a global early stage investment firm based here out of Australia with a large footprint also in Southeast Asia, delivering similar programs for them across Australia and Southeast Asia. And 3 years heading out of Investable, we were very fortunate to win a $30 million tender by the City of Sydney to launch Australia's very first climate tech hub, which is now occupying the first 3 floors of the new Salesforce Tower in Circular Quay, and was a project that I helped launch before I left. So there was a real opportunity in the context of that, and in parallel, Investable had launched a climate tech fund. So there was a real opportunity for those later years in supporting climate tech founders in ongoing growth and commercialization. When I saw this opportunity with OIO, it was not only the opportunity to continue having impact in this space and doing the work that I love, but more importantly, doing the work that I love in a vertical that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm incredibly passionate about. I think, for me personally, what I was really excited about this role was I love building things. I had the opportunity to do that with Investable and Greenhouse, and I am thrilled to have stepped in when I did with OIO to help iterate this next stage of growth as we move forward.
Yeah, and honestly, we've probably shared it around a little bit, but the competitive process around that application for what was called the innovation program manager at the time. I mean, I think we had almost 500 applicants, and we worked tirelessly to whittle that down to this competitive shortlist. And it was really tough at that final stages. But then when we finally had the chance to meet you and go through a couple of those interviews, you were shining so bright, and you're still shining so bright in this role. I'd really like to go a little bit deeper into some of those, I guess, parallels or crossovers with some of your more recent career maneuvers in climate tech, the work you were doing at Investable and with Greenhouse you mentioned. Did it feel really a big leap to come into the ocean space? There's obviously a huge amount of new domain expertise that you had to acquire, or was there actually more parallels than people might suspect?
No, I think there were a lot of parallels. I think there are a lot of overlap. When people think about oceans, I think they often think about things that are, literally ocean based, but most of what impacts ocean is landlocked. And so I think that there are incredible parallels across industry and sectors within the myriad of climate tech sectors that have been identified that absolutely have an application or complementary to the space and the blue economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when it comes down to it, like you've identified in opening up, so much of it is down to people and the way you put programs or experiences together to bring the best out of people, but also all the stuff that you do at the front end in terms of how to identify and support the right people at the right stage of their journey. And that's really where I think you've just been so incredible in coming into OIO. For those not aware, like traditionally, the way we've run our innovation programs is actually using sort of third party partners to help us in that design and delivery, because Nick and I, with a very small team, we are quite happy to put up our hand and say we are not the innovation experts. We have not done these programs before. Let's partner with those who are very experienced at delivering it. But when you came in, a big part of that brief was to say, hey, look, this is how we've been doing things historically. We know there's going to be a better way, and a way that's more aligned with our vision. Help us come in and design that. So let's maybe just go to that point of the conversation around how you tackled that challenge of unpacking our mission and our vision, and making sure that our future program design and the way we do support startups and entrepreneurs is sort of fit for purpose and best in class.
Yeah, I mean, I think the exciting thing, one of so many exciting things for me when I joined OIO, was that I had such an incredible base to work with. I mean, you guys had already done the heavy lifting in building an ecosystem from scratch that didn't exist. No good running programs if there was no ecosystem to service, right? So, the fact that the intention at the time was deliberately to go really broad and global, and that is all about ecosystem building. So for me, this past year has really been this kind of evolutionary listening exercise to really understand how might we get really clear on where the flow of capital is, where demands are from customers, in region, all that kind of stuff. And so, for us, this better part of the year, the team has been focusing on many things. One of them being geographic focus. So, we are part of a organization called 1,000 Ocean Startups. We're one of the founding members. We started off at 5 or so organizations within that group, but now there's 50 plus organizations across the globe. That being said, what's really clear as a part of being a part of that group is that we are really over-indexed by way of support with our friends in the North, but there's nothing going on down here in Asia Pacific. So we see that there's a real opportunity to service this area, to really support these emerging markets, and where there's just some incredible innovation with no line of sight. So we're doubling down on that whole Asia Pacific region geographically. And then equally, it was also about looking at, in the context of those regions, where do the solutions sit? And we quickly identified 4 key ocean solution areas, which are climate, food security, pollution, and habitat and biodiversity. And in amongst those 4 solutions, there are an additional 13 investment thematics that sit underneath each of those, and a further 30 plus impact metrics that is spun out of the 1,000 Ocean Startups Impact Navigator framework that they launched recently on Uplink. So when we took a look at how do we bring focus around geography, how do we bring focus in the types of solutions that we want to continue commercializing, we needed to be able to hand on heart, be able to say that we could support these founders with future customers and investment and pilot opportunities and other procurement opportunities and further validation through industry partners, all that kind of stuff. And so we've spent the better part of this year aligning ourselves with some really amazing, deep strategic relationships in industry that sits within some of those verticals, and will continue to do that. Right now, we have a number that sit within food security, not surprisingly, because that's where a lot of investment flow is happening, and we'll continue to roll out other strategic partnerships in the future. But I think overall, our approach moving forward is that we will not and are not in this cohort delivering kind of a one size fits all accelerator like structure. We are in fact moving away from that, where we'll be doing more regular intakes. Founders need different things at different times, and the spread of the different types of technology solutions that we're working with are so vast. It's just, it's kind of ridiculous to think that we can deliver something that's a one size fits all approach. So we are moving to a much more tailored structure moving forward, which includes what this cohort is currently experiencing.
Yeah, and we'll get to this current cohort in a moment. But yeah, for everyone listening in, if that does sound like a lot of work and a lot of strategic thinking. That's because it is. We really had to look at the rapidly evolving global landscape, which is just so fantastic to see this acceleration, this movement gathering around ocean health innovation. But as EM suggested, it was skewed. The northern hemisphere was seeing massive growth, and almost some could argue some overcrowding of the space. But look at the southern hemisphere and look at Asia Pacific, and it was sort of just little old OIO flying the flag on the global stage. So we've really doubled down on that and said, well, our future is this region. And similarly to what's probably happening in the global ecosystem, is there's some maturing going on, this maturity of realizing that if you do want to see the large mainstream capital flowing into this sector, you've got to follow the needs and expectations of those investment thematics and following the dollars to drive the impact. So it really has been phenomenal, and I'm just so proud of OIO to be here where we are in 2024 and to really start to have some wonderful clarity of what 2025 and beyond looks like when it comes to our core business. So why don't we get into a little bit of a chat about the OIAP 2024 EM? You might want to start even just by giving us a bit of a picture of what the process in terms of finding and recruiting and finally selecting those startups to participate, how you tackled that challenge, and we can obviously lead into the wonderful startups that we've ended up announcing recently.
Sure. So we had we opened up applications, and they, I think it, again, in the spirit of trying to double down on APAC as a region, though we do have one founder who is out of Chile. We really looked hard we did some direct outreach approach, as well as we had organic applications that came in. We put them through a fairly significant due diligence matrix that kind of really did a deep dive on 17 plus different metrics across the business to best assess not just where kind of the stage of the company was at, and people and product and traction and all of those kinds of things, but also, again, when we go back to our focus this year on really making sure that we are creating this sort of supply side for industry. We wanted to, in parallel, as a part of the screening process, we were going to our industry partners to kind of understand where were the largest pain points and how might we marry that with some of those applicants that came in, to hand on heart be able to say, we're going to be able to facilitate these really meaningful connections that can lead to these really commercial outcomes at the end of this process. For us, that's sort of one of the elements or the lens that we were looking through was, could we hand on heart say that we can really help these founders with these commercial outcomes, because that's really important. And do we have the networks to best activate for them on their behalf and support them in that journey with customers and partners and channel partners and regulatory challenges and international expansion and investors and you name it, right? So there was a lot of that was happening on in the back end as a part of that screening process. We then went through multiple interview cycles with a round of finalists, and of course, are delighted to have publicly announced the 5 incredible founders who we've had the privilege of getting to know over these last few months leading up to this point. They are a group of exceptional humans.
Yeah, and your feedback on the sessions that you've been hosting over the last few weeks are really fantastic. And yeah, lots of positivity and collegiality forming already. And the next few months are going to be really, really exciting. So it's not like we're doing like a big reveal right now, because we have publicly announced the cohort, but we'd love to spend a little bit of time now just running you through those 5 awesome startups and the solutions that they are championing. So let's get into it, shall we, EM? We've got first up that one you mentioned from Chile, Acquit, a really fantastic organization tackling a very serious problem.
So Acquit is basically tackling one of the biggest challenges that we're facing today, which is antimicrobial resistance, or what is known as AMR. So basically, instead of relying on antibiotics in aquaculture, which contributes to this global issue, they have developed this really innovative solution which essentially boosts the fish's natural immunity with a protein. And which means that they're not only improving the survival rates, but they're also making aquaculture more sustainable. The best part is that this particular solution is environmentally friendly, which means that it's helping keep our waters clean and free from pollutants, which can harm wild fish populations. And so we are really excited about this off the back of an immersion trip that I did with the Blue Economy CRC, where we got to visit those physical aquaculture locations in Tasmania. We knew firsthand. I actually went on the hunt for a solution and found Aquit. And although they are in Chile, Aquit naturally has its sights on Australia and New Zealand as a market, and that's where they just so beautifully fit in. And we have an industry in general are very excited to be connected to them over here.
Yeah, and
And
definitely.
we love that they have a female co-founder.
Yeah, wonderful female co-founder as well. Yeah, definitely not the first time that we've forayed into this space. I'm just thinking of Azul Bio, right? Trying to understand the microbiology of species and using deep science to really help boost immunity and tolerance. And so I think that is just phenomenal and really in line with what OIO believes is that great science does not need to stay in labs. It needs to be out there in the real world making these transformative real world differences. So
1,000%.
yeah. And yeah, like you said, that's the problems around antibiotics in a whole range of food security verticals is a big one, and definitely humans, right? You can look up this stuff online and see that there's people painting very dire predictions for humanity around that antimicrobial resistance space.
Yeah.
So why not get antibiotics out of these systems and use nature and use our knowledge of biology to fight it in and create, like you said, a transformed way of doing aquaculture. And the markets for that are huge, right? Not just in Chile in their
Massive.
home company, all
God,
throughout
no.
Canada, Norway, and big markets in
Everywhere.
Australia and
Yeah.
NZ.
Yeah. Multi-billion-dollar market.
Fantastic. All right. Well, go and check out Acquit if you'd like to see some more about those guys. And we look forward to telling you more about their story and how they're progressing through the program over the next few months. Another fantastic female founded team from Australia, from Brisbane, Blue Carbon. We're going in alphabetical order here, obviously, but Blue Carbon, love these guys.
Oh my God. I love them so much. Love them so much. Yeah. Two exceptional badass humans. Oh, they're so fantastic. And so is this technology. So Blue Carbon is all about tackling the impact of climate change on our oceans. Which obviously is huge. They have developed these incredible opods, which essentially mimic the natural ocean process to help restore coral reefs, kelp forests, and reduce ocean acidity, which is really critical. What's really cool is that these opods are completely self-sufficient, and they use renewable energy to pump really nutrient-rich water to the surface, which also aids in helping offshore aquaculture without the need to use diesel and create, potentially ocean gardens, which will help in rewilding fish populations and capture CO2. So it has so many applications. The technology itself has so many applications that skew across sustainable aquaculture and ecosystem restoration and data and monitoring, and you name it. It's a game changer for ocean ecosystems and sustainable aquaculture as an industry.
Yeah, and you can jump on their LinkedIn and check out a new hype video which shows the progress on one of their new models that they're in development at the moment. And it's insane because obviously you so often across this space you see captivating animations and videos showing the potential of these solutions, but then this is a video where it's interdispersed with them actually manufacturing the thing, which is getting out there and doing the hard work. So yeah, I remember this has been around for a really long time. People talking about countering the climate crisis through giant arrays of seaweed using marine permaculture, but the challenge has always been, how do you feed the nutrients to that surface waters, right? The answer is you've got to get the upwelling from the deep. The deep is rich in nutrients. It's the right temperature that will allow species to thrive.
So you've got to get that upwelling technology right. And the wonderful team at Blue Carbon have said, okay, we'll take that on. And the applications, like you said, are diverse. They can cool waters, like prevent coral reef heat stress. They can obviously get down there into those existing industries and bring up that nutrient-dense water. They can distribute and disseminate different, waters as well to have more of that diffusion. So really incredible stuff, and really thrilled to be working with those guys.
Agreed. Couldn't be happier to work with them.
Okay, we're powering through on to number 3. So cool that we got 2 startups from NZ, from Aotearoa, in the program this year. First up, Ocean Intelligence from Nelson.
Yeah, so what I will just say is, as a part of the strategic partners that we brought on through that immersion trip that I mentioned previously, we had the pleasure of meeting the founder of Moana Nui, Jody Kunch, who is leading a blue economy cluster out of Nelson, New Zealand. And, one of the reasons why we engaged in this relationship, I mean, there's multiple reasons, but certainly we really haven't engaged with the New Zealand ecosystem much. And likewise, they, haven't engaged with us. So there was this real opportunity to get some line of sight into the amazing innovation that we know that existed in this space over there, but we just had no visibility around. And so what I think is so incredibly cool is through that partnership alone, there were introductions that were facilitated, and 2 of the introductions have now are included in this cohort, and Ocean Intelligence is one of them. So Ocean Intelligence is also this really great example of what should happen more often, which is, so this technology has actually been developed over the last 10 years out of the Cawthorne Institute, which is one of the world's leading research institutions around. And so what we're really excited by, I met the CEO on that immersion trip, and he's really committed and passionate about making sure that things don't get stuck in a lab. And so where there are those innovations that exist internally, they are in active dialogue around what can they continue to spin out of the organization and get this stuff in the hands of customers and industry that need it. So Ocean Intelligence is the first one that they've done that with. So we're really excited that we get to play a role in supporting this company and commercializing. And Joel, who's great, first-time founder, so he's looking for a lot of support. But essentially, Ocean Intelligence is all about using data to make aquaculture more sustainable and efficient. And they've built this amazing AI platform that basically helps marine farmers optimize everything from fuel usage to catch management, which not only boosts their operations, but also supports a healthier marine ecosystem. And the intention, the sort of the passionate connection around regenerative farming for them personally is kind of where they really see a really positive application for this technology by scaling up regenerative farming of things like oysters and seaweed and blue mussels. They're really helping to meet that climate and biodiversity goals while improving food security at the same time. So it's just really smart and forward-thinking approach to building a thriving blue economy in that space.
Yeah, as part of this season of the podcast, actually, we are going to have Jody Kunch on the season. So there'll be an episode with Jody learning all about Moana Nui. But yeah, as part of that episode and the strategic relationship we do have with Moana Nui, just learning about the state of play down there in New Zealand. And, they do have a significant footprint already when it comes to marine industries and fisheries and aquaculture. But similar to Australia, the blue economy revenue is still minute, and there is just so much potential when it comes to smaller scale and regenerative aquaculture coming in there and supporting the economy, creating jobs, but also restoring and rehabilitating marine ecosystems as well. And this is where you need these platforms, you need solutions like Ocean Intelligence to make it efficient for startups and businesses to actually, embark on this journey. So well done to Ocean Intelligence. And I really love that we've got a first-time founder and someone who's just an absolute sponge in Joel, in sucking up, pardon the pun, all of this knowledge that you're sharing.
Is great.
On to the next New Zealand startup, Pinpoint Earth. Looks like these guys have got some really game-changing technology that'll have certainly global ramifications as it scales.
Yeah, and this is another great example. I mean, really, New Zealand is doing an incredible job. So this technology was spun out of a company called Snapcore. And Chris, the founder of Snapcore, he's a serial entrepreneur, has a long history of successful growth and exits. So we're very excited to get involved with yet another one of what we are confident will be another triumph. So Pinpoint Earth is that technology, and they are transforming how the fishing industry operates with their always-on vessel monitoring system. So these devices of various sizes are solar powered, so works on boats even without power, and it helps. I should say boats without power and of all different sizes, right? So even the little guys. It helps fishers, sorry, really kind of optimize their routes. It saves on fuel. It helps them keep track of their catch more efficiently. But probably more importantly, it's a game changer for both safety. It will send real-time location data around specific emergencies, and they are also taking on illegal fishing with AI that tracks the sort of the anomalies, which makes the whole industry, a lot more transparent and sustainable. And big, massive challenge when we think about overfishing. So it's a huge win for the fishers. It's a big win for regulators who are trying to get ahead of this, and also for consumers.
Yeah, that's it. Just love just how many key challenge areas Pinpoint Earth is addressing. Like you said, that the transparency, it's so integral that we enable more and more tools to allow transparency in seafood supply chains, because the figures around just how much of the seafood making its way onto supermarket shelves and fishmongers and restaurants where you just don't know where it's come from it's diabolical in my book. I think I saw something just recently that it was the 6th largest illegal trade in the world last year was basically seafood. Right, there is so much money moving around, and the only way to dampen that out is to enable these businesses that do embrace transparency to be the dominant players in the space. And that relates to you consumers. You really, when you're consuming seafood, it's beholden on you to be making those steps to know where it's come from and make sure that you're not involved in illegal, unreported and unregulated fisheries. The safety thing is huge. And I just love the ability for this technology to go out there on fishing fleets in developing countries too, right? It's low cost. It doesn't require power. So suddenly you can get this vessel monitoring on vessels that would otherwise never have been able to utilize it before. So I think these guys got a very rich future indeed at Pinpoint Earth. Really good to have Ali and the team on board. So getting down to the last one now, and it's obviously evident for those people tuning in, there was quite a bit of a focus on food security and improving the way we do fishing and aquaculture in those sort of first 4. But the last one's a little bit out of the box, so to speak, but not when you know our beautiful history and story with the guys at Washbox. How cool to have these guys in the program.
I'm so ecstatic to finally get to work with Andrew. I just think he's such an incredible founder. Obviously, I know OIO even before I joined, knew Andrew because he's kind of been in amongst the ecosystem for a while. And then, of course, not long after I joined, I had the pleasure of being able to engage with him when he won our plastics pollution award at our and was presented with that award at Innovation last year off the back of a Pitch Fest category. So it was great to finally bring him in at some level, into the fold. But after, as a part of that process, I got to know him really well. And I just, I really was chomping at the bit to work with him. So I am really excited that he is a part of this cohort. And for those people who are not familiar with Washbox, so they really are changing the game for the construction industry by tackling liquid waste pollution head on, which is it is ridiculous when you see the pictures or the videos. Like, I highly recommend going to Andrew's LinkedIn page because the amount of content that he posts on the challenging environment that construction sort of still exists in around this whole trading environment is just it's unreal. You just don't believe it until you see it. So they've created this mobile closed loop wash system that filters and recycles the water used for cleaning all the tools, which means that it's capturing things like paint. And for those of you who don't think that paint is plastic, it is, and concrete washout before they can get stuck into those waterways. And it will go into the waterways because there is still, there's a lack of wastewater treatment that's required to kind of tackle some of these microplastics challenges. So, we probably are eating paint and concrete, right, in our food system. But what's great also about it is that it will cut water use by over 98%. And since it doesn't need plumbing connections, it's really super easy for any of these commercial development sites to use it on site. And it's a really simple and effective way to keep our oceans cleaner and make construction more sustainable. Andrew is going through, he is in a number of different locations in the UK and has just expanded into the US and also here in Australia and making some headway into Southeast Asia, and is currently working on and testing, which will help him with some new business models to make the business even more scalable and really relevant for ready for that next stage of capital flow.
Super exciting. And this season will feature an episode with Andrew Crimston, the founder of Washbox. So stay tuned for that one. Yeah, of course.
He's basically winning like every sustainable construction award across the globe. It is just ridiculous.
But when you go and just peek under the cover at the solution and you sort of hear the rationale as to why they exist, you're like, oh, duh. Like, are you telling me that every construction site around the world, the current status quo is to just wash tools directly into sewage systems
in a bucket?
Or they have a bucket and a barrel that just sort of sits there, and then someone's problem later on is what to do with it.
And then they're going to dump it in there anyway. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It's just crazy.
And so I love watching again on Andrew's LinkedIn on Washbox, almost daily or weekly, they're announcing a new major construction project as partnering with them, of adopting their solution. And it's like, yeah, congratulations, high five. But every construction site needs a solution like this. So the sky is the limit for the team at Washbox. And really great to have them in the program. Another really amazing Australian solution, which has got true global scope like you've identified there.
Yeah.
So it goes without saying, everyone, that you can head to the Ocean Impact Organisation website and learn a whole bunch more about these startups. And there's obviously links back to their pages as well, where you can go and dive deeper. What we might do now quickly, we're not going to spend too much more time on this episode, EM. It's been wonderful. But tell us a little bit about, where you're at now in the program and the way you're running activities through the next few months. I've been watching, what you've been putting together and getting great feedback. It looks like it's going super well.
Yeah. So I guess the way that we've run the program this year is we kicked it off with a really in-depth needs analysis that kind of got extracted out of the due diligence that we did on each of the companies. So it gets each of the founders in a fair bit of detail to assess their current and desired state across 17 different facets of the business. And for us, we spend a fair bit of one-on-one time to identify where the gaps are. And within those gaps, what came to light and what helps shaped this tailored approach is, we know that we bring the founders together on a weekly basis for various sessions, and those sessions are informed by things that we know that the group as a collective need in general, things that came up as common themes amongst the cohort through that needs analysis process that then informed us to go out and curate specific experts and speakers to bring into that the whole group could benefit from. And then what it also reflected were where were those triggers for that one-on-one support in how we will facilitate that bridge to knowledge, whether that be connections to experts or advisors or customers, partners, investors, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a lot of that facilitation that will be taking place in the background of those complimentary weekly sessions through the end of this process, which will wrap up in early December.
One of the things I loved in looking through the schedule was just seeing the appearance of others in our OIO alumni as well. And just so that realizing again that collegiality of people that are in this space and how that knowledge sharing and lessons can be disseminated. It's so cool just to sort of realize the power of this little ecosystem we've been forging over the last 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah, it's great to welcome some of our founders back as speakers to share their journey. I mean, most of the speakers that we have brought in this year are founders who have been there, done that before from across the globe. And, many of those sessions are those Chatham House rule type conversations that you just can't get anywhere else, but that are so meaningful and help any startup accelerate when they can learn from those who have been there, made the mistakes. Hopefully they won't have to make them themselves. And it helps shorten that learning cycle ideally. But it's very cool to see our alumni. I think that's one of the other things that we made sure that we did this year was as we offered up these sessions, we wanted to make sure that we are continuing to support our own. And so we offered up all of these sessions to our existing alumni should they want to join. So it was yet another opportunity for us to keep our community close and engage them in many ways.
Very cool. And what a wonderful alumni it is. And it's only going to grow into the future, which leads me to one of our final discussion points, EM, is just that picture of the future and knowing that there is a whole bunch of emerging entrepreneurs or established founders that do listen to the podcast and maybe have a strong desire to one day work with OIO. Just any sort of words of advice or guidance or a glimpse at how you foresee OIO continuing to cater programs and experiences to help founders into the future.
So, look, I would like to say to all of the startups, entrepreneurs, wannabe oceanpreneurs listening in, I just want to remind you that building something, impactful takes passion, it takes resilience, it takes a clear vision of how you want to change the world. This space is full of opportunity and innovation. We are not that. If that is one thing that I've constantly been struck by, is that we are not lacking innovation in this country. I mean, we should be owning this space with 12,000 beaches that we are surrounded by. Right? There is just so much innovation that is really crucial in this area that is available. So, and it's not just about building things that are for business, but really for the future of our planet. So my words of encouragement would just be to keep pushing forward. This journey is not for the faint of heart. Stay curious. Don't be afraid to ask for help because there are plenty of people willing to give it. Whether you're just starting out with an idea or looking to scale up, as we continue to announce the new structures of our programs in the future, keep an eye out because we are designing things that will enable you and support you to grow at various stages in that journey. So as far as staying connected to us, I would recommend making sure that you're following us on social media, sign up for our newsletter, check into our website. We're always rolling out new announcements and opportunities for how to remain connected to this amazing community that is OIO.
Thank you so much, EM. It really is. I know I talk to you basically daily, and we are constantly relaying our thanks and appreciation for what you've done and what you are here to do with OIO. But I appreciate you, and I'm just so ecstatic to see this incredible evolution with this year's cohort. But wonderful bunch of startups that are going to do great things. Over to you for any final words before we wrap up this episode.
Oh, look, I mean, no final words. It's been a delight to, I love any opportunity to talk about these amazing founders. I just, it's a gift every day to do the work that I do and to do it with such an amazing organization. It is not lost on me that most people will never get to experience this feeling, right? And being really passionate about what they do. So it is something I'm very conscious about. I'm just so grateful every day to have the privilege to work with organizations like OIO, our incredible team, and the community, the broader OIO community.
Awesome. Thanks, EM. I'll see you on another call in about 10 minutes to talk shop. Thanks, everyone.